Voting Slav TV.
When Donald Trump said that he wanted to make America great again, the response from triggered leftists was that America was never great to begin with. But when Wisconsin congressional GOP candidate Paul Nehlen said that he wants to put America first, the result was an absolute shitstorm of anti-white and anti-Semitic accusations against him that have in turn made his Twitter an absolute red pill dispensary and shitlord heaven. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Paul Nehlen is an extremely successful businessman and conservative politician from Wisconsin, a Fortune 500 manufacturing business owner with multiple foreign patents, and was a runner-up against Speaker of the House Paul Ryan in Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District in 2016. Despite having lost to Ryan previously, Nehlen is running up against him again in 2018, and his campaign, which aims to put America first, has done a fantastic job of revealing the many public figures who can't fathom the idea of America putting its own interests and values first before those of any other nation or people. This sour reaction to Nehlen's campaign doesn't come as a surprise, however, considering that he's vowed to build a wall in order to stop illegal immigration from the Gulf, uphold the Second Amendment, replace Obamacare, and improve military spending, just to name a few. On top of all this, he's also brilliantly proposed a federal shall not censor legislation, which would aim to create federal laws prohibiting censorship of lawful speech on major social media platforms. Nehlen, the straight white wealthy male conservative politician from Wisconsin, has taken his campaign to Twitter and has managed to trigger a tsunami of absolute butthurt from the side of conservatives and Zio shills, who have taken every single opportunity to let him know that America cannot and will not be first. To give you a small taste of what's been going on in this Twitter tornado, Nehlen recently tweeted out the legendary "It's okay to be white" slogan and was automatically slammed for being a white supremacist by prominent Jewish commentators and politicians. On the same day, he also used the infamous echo in a tweet about Jewish lawyer Eric Cohn in response to a tweet in which Cohn had accused him of being a bigot. After tweeting about how he's reading Kevin MacDonald's book The Culture of Critique, Nehlen was labeled by many Jews as an anti-Semite, even though he simply stated that he was just reading the book without giving any kind of indication as to whether he liked it or not. Besides these instances, Nehlen has also tweeted out dozens of pro-white and nationalist tweets, which have caused the media to go into a complete frenzy about how he's appealing to white supremacists while blaming him for endorsing Trump's ideology of draining the swamp. Basically, Nehlen has been fighting this battle with two guns blazing, so if you haven't had a chance to check his Twitter out, you're definitely missing out. As of this week, Breitbart executive Steve Bannon has also cut ties with Nehlen over his quote-unquote inflammatory online activity and has removed the articles that Nehlen had published on their website previously. This fallout situation with Breitbart was particularly amusing, considering that Breitbart had always prided itself on being pro-free speech, unless of course this free speech had anything to do with white identity or with putting America first over all others, as Nehlen aims to do. Despite being labeled a complete anti-Semite by the many conservative Jewish vultures that prey on his tweets, Nehlen has made it clear that it simply wasn't his priority to put Israel first, and that he certainly wasn't compromising pro-white interests either. Certainly, nobody expects for conservative Jewish politicians in Israel to be pushing for American national interests over their own national interests, nor should this be the case in any other country on earth. In fact, if we take a second to think about Nehlen's philosophy, it ends up being completely logical, because simply put, every nation on earth should strive to put its own interests first before the interests of any other nation. If this wasn't the case historically, then many nations would have already perished in war or would have been completely run down by foreign governments and foreign interests. Unfortunately, as we've come to witness in the last little while, the preservation of national interests has always been equated to racism and supremacy by the media, especially when these movements involve white interests, identity, and nationalism. Sadly, politicians like Paul Nehlen are a prime example of the backlash and hypocrisy that many white conservative politicians face when they try to address the priority of American interests. Nehlen, whose campaign has been exploding on Twitter, has really done a great job of showing us just how terrified some of these quote-unquote proud Americans are of having American interests at the forefront of politics. Certainly, if these people had the American nation's best interests at heart and not the interests of some other nation, then they wouldn't bat an eye to a politician who's aiming to put America first, nor would they fret over a politician who's looking to preserve the identities of white Americans.
Congress shouldn't let people who misunderstood the latest James Bond movie write our gun laws.
In the case of Paul Nehlen, the shitstorm has only really just started, so get yourselves ready, guys, because it's only going to get a hell of a lot more fun from here on out.